let's do the Shea Weber one too. So what if?
Hey-o.
No, it was I guess 6 years later. They try the offer sheet route again. They do the monster deal with Shea Weber. Eventually, Nashville matches. But what if Nashville hadn't matched the Shea Weber offer sheet? My first question, Charlie, is Paul Holmgren still the GM?
Ooh. That's a really good question. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, look, I think Holmgren at this point would have retired. Like he is up there in age. He's up there in age. But I do think his tenure lasts a lot longer.
He's got a lot more leash,
that we maybe don't get the Hextall tenure. Maybe the Hextall tenure is all Paul Holmgren.
That could, and then they bring Hextall in. Like maybe Hextall doesn't get the chance until way later, but he probably goes somewhere else because he was thought of as like the next. He's this guy, like he's getting a job, and it was we have to bring him in, and basically promise him the succession, or he's going somewhere and getting a job somewhere else. Now, as we see, it didn't exactly work out for Ron Hextall, but he was the GM of 2 different teams.
Might not have been the worst thing if he would have gotten a job somewhere else.
Yeah, it might not have been, but it always had to happen here. It was a dude like, I'm glad he got his shot here. It didn't work, but when you saw him out in LA, we basically sent him to college, and it was like, yeah, you'll come back when you're ready, and we did. Like, it had to be here. It just didn't work out. Like, I don't know if I'd want to erase that, but I guess if we had Shea Weber, I'd be like, fuck that. Let's try to win the cup. Does Claude Giroux have teams good enough to at least go on a run? Is Shea Weber's presence here from the lockout-shortened 2012-13 season through, say, 16-17, does that give Giroux a chance to at least get to a conference final, something like that, maybe actually go on a cup run? Like, does Shea Weber's presence here create that opportunity?
It's tough to say. So I guess if you get Shea Weber, your defense core in that first season would have been Shea Weber, Chemo Team, and then Braden Coburn, because they don't re-sign Matt Carl. Part of the reason why they don't re-sign Matt Carl is because they're going for Shea Weber. They can't tie out cap space. So Carl's gone. So there's your top 3. This is something I had actually forgotten before I saw it in the outline that you put in. I had in my head that they traded for Shen because they didn't get Weber. I didn't realize that the Shen trade happened before the Weber offer sheet.
I did not realize that. I was like, oh, that was like the backup plan. But it
was really, that was the way I've retconned it in my head. Yeah.
No, but it was really like we need to move on from JVR. They just didn't want that no trade to click in, and it was let's get something for like. It was more about moving on from JVR than I think fixing the defense, which they obviously also wanted to do with big mean dudes like Shea Weber, for instance. Who it was that previous season. It was 2012. Yeah, it was the same year because the Flyers had their series with the Penguins, and that was just absolutely out of hand. And that Nashville-Detroit series where Shea Weber fucking turnbuckled. Who was it? He turnbuckled somebody's head right off the boards. And it was like a big fucking deal. And that's finally when the league was like, Jesus, we have to start suspending people because this is turning into pro wrestling. Because they just fined him for that. But they wanted big, mean dudes, and Shea Weber was the biggest, meanest dude available. They did get Luke Shen, too, before all of that, which I had no memory of when I was looking it up.
Yeah. So we're going back. That defense core in 2020 or in 2012, 2013 would have been Weber number 1, Tiemann number 2, Coburn number 3, Shen number 4, I guess, and then you have Mazzaros and Grossman. Is that good enough? I don't think so, but I do think you're close, and I think maybe you probably need one more legitimately good defenseman. The thing is that do I trust Paul Holmgren to go out and find that guy based on what he actually did over those 3 years? I really don't. Like, there's a chance he still goes out 2 years later and trades for Andrew McDonald because he thinks he's good. Like, that could happen.
Yeah. And
because Mazzaros isn't part of the future.
No. That's part of this. Like, the assets they gave up searching for defensemen post offer sheet. The draft picks are what gets you, and what basically the Islanders turn those draft picks into. Now, they give up a couple of career minor leaguers in these two trades, but Shane Harper and 2014 fourth rounder that becomes Devon Taves from Mark Streit. And then later on, a 2014 third rounder that becomes Ilya Sorokin, and a 2015 second rounder that becomes Brandon Carlo, along with some dude named Matt Mangine, for Andrew McDonald. Those draft picks, now you can never, we're talking about third, fourth round picks here. Who the hell knows who the Flyers would have taken? But I just named some pretty damn good players. And what they got back was, a couple of years before his penis falls off of Mark Streit and the albatross that was Andrew McDonald. My God, I would like the lottery ticket over those two.
Okay, fair. But here's the question. What's the compensation that the Flyers would have had to give to Nashville for signing Weber?
It would have been 4 firsts, I believe.
4 firsts. So who don't they get because of that? This happens in 2012. I guess what? They don't get Lawton. 2013, they don't get Sam Moran. They don't get Travis Sanheim. And I'm just saying, and then what? 2015, they don't get Ivan Provorov. Now, granted, you assume they would have been a better team with Weber.
Yeah.
So they probably don't get those guys anyway. You would think they probably don't have. What was the Moran pick? 10th or 11th? They're probably picking 13, higher.
12, 13.
Yeah,
they're
probably picking further back in the first round. So, but then they're not picking at all. So those picks, but those are guys you don't have in your pipeline. It's a fascinating question. To me, then you start getting into too much of a butterfly effect because then the entire team is different. But you then are going through, unless they, as we talked about yesterday, unless they do the pick swap where it's give us back our 4 firsts and we'll give you Shen and Couturier. And then the question is, are the forwards good enough? I don't know.
Yeah, because we talked yesterday. That was very much on the table, Shen and Coots. Instead of the picks, or to get the picks back, or a trade prior to the offer sheet, they were involved. So there's always, man. But what about our 2 and 3C? They would have been gone.
Yeah.
Eventually, both of those, Couturier, eventually the center for Claude Giroux on the left wing, and Braden Shen had his career year on Claude Giroux's left wing. Those things never happen either. So it is a weird. It is a weird butterfly effect. That's pretty hard to figure out.
I think my answer to the Weber, what if, is I still don't think they win a cup. I think probably if they get Weber, I think the 2010s are more interesting. I think they are probably more competitive, and we don't have that big dip, and Claude Giroux doesn't get his prime entirely wasted. But I think the team still comes up short, just in different ways, because I don't think they would have I don't think the defense would have been good enough even with Weber. Number one, because they still had holes. Number two, because Paul Holmgren is still the one evaluating defensemen, and I did not trust him at that point to get the right guys to fill out the decor. But also, I think that the mid-2010s team then just doesn't ultimately have enough depth. If they have to trade Couturier and Shen, then you don't have the forward depth. If you keep them but give up your first round picks, I don't know if you have then the assets to go out and improve your team over those years to catch up with the clubs that were the real contenders, to catch up with the LAs and the Chicagos. I think the team's better than it ultimately ended up being, to be sure. But I don't think if they get Ryan Kessler, I think there's a damn good chance they win a cup. If they get Shea Weber, I think they don't win a cup. They just don't win it in a different way that as opposed to what actually happened. That's kind of, I think, where I fall there.
We all silly like the mayor.